Hello already. We'll wait a little bit until the numbers go a little bit up and then we will start. Thanks for the compliments. Okay, we'll wait 1 more minute and then we were gonna start. I hope the sun is shining as pretty in your place as it is in mine. Okay, hello, welcome everybody. For the ones, I'm gonna repeat quickly what this live stream is about. So with YSAFE together, each last Sunday of every month, we're gonna start to have a live stream together where we will just discuss about any subject related to sexual rights. As you can see, I'm probably red. This time we're gonna talk about accessible contraception, what it means, why it is important, what like the intersectional part of it is, and so on. And we always try to invite guests, activists that perhaps work on it or have like a special expertise and so on. And also we try to make it interactive. So there will be different places where you can join our live stream if you want to. You can also always ask questions. So if you have any comments, any questions, feel free to post them. Exactly. So what are we gonna talk about today? Accessible contraception. What is contraception? So contraception is just a voluntary prevention of pregnancies. And it is important because it makes you choose and plan how much children you want to have, if you want to have children, when you want to have children. Some parts of contraception also make it able to protect yourself from STIs, so from sexuality transmissible infections. And there's different kind of contraception. So there's long-term ones, short-term one, and more the natural kind of contraceptions. So the long-term ones are mostly implants, which are the hormonal implants. They last, you can keep them there for like 3 to 5 years, or the EUD, which work with iron, and they you can last them in your body, you can leave them in your body 5 to 10 years, depending the kind of EUD you get. And the mechanism for the long-term implants are that they hinder the sperm to reach your egg. So with the iron one, I think it's pretty funny, like the iron makes the sperm dizzy, so they get disorientated, and then they're just like drunk people just flowing around and they don't know where the eggs are. Then the short ones, they can be the pill, which you take every day, the injectables, there's patches, there's rings, there's all kind of sorts. And having a lot of variety is always good because every individual human being kind of has different ways of how they live or what symptoms they have. So everybody has an individual contraception that is good for them. And the short terms mostly just works by stop releasing your egg. So it kind of stops a little bit your cycle in the natural way, and you do not produce eggs anymore. And then there's also the condoms, and they are the only contraception where you have also a protection from STIs. So that's why even if you use one of the long-term or short-term contraception, at the beginning when you have a new sexual partners, it is always important to also use condom so that you guys do not get infected. But there's also some natural contraception methods. They are less secure than like the modern contraception methods but also they can work if you really know how to. So that can be like measuring your temperature, or that can be counting your cycle. But again, they're a little bit risky, and you have to really have a stable life. So for example, you really have to have a clear routine so that your temperature is always the same in the evening, in the morning, that you can really see where your cycle is at, and that you see the effect of the cycle on your body temperature. But for more details on access on contraception and like which one would be good for you, I will add after the live stream link, which will lead you to a quiz from IPPF, where you can find out a little bit about your individual contraception method that is the best for you. Why is contraception important? And why does it need to be accessible to everybody? It is so important because it gives you the right to choose, and it allows you to have your bodily autonomy. And that is enormously important because that is a human right, it is a sexual right, and so every human being has a right to that right. Then, if you ask historians, contraception is also extremely important because it made it possible for the emancipation of women. It made it possible to be better integrated into the market, to work more, to plan, so that a baby is not gonna destroy, like, kind of stop your education or like your job pattern. It just made it possible to plan, and hence the integration of women into the economy was possible through that. Additionally, sexual liberty became possible through that, so that double standard was able to change a little bit. I know we still live in the double standard when it comes to sexuality, so that women are still have more that whore stigma and are less allowed to live out the sexual life. But contraception made it possible for that process to begin, that women can express more their sexuality. And of course, it's important to protect from STIs. So today we will have a guest. That's gonna be Bojana. She is from North Macedonia, and she works with HERA Youth. HERA Youth just had different campaigns they did to assure more accessibility to contraception. So she's going to talk more about the accessibility part, and we're going to discuss why it is so important that everybody has accessibility, and which kind of groups are more marginalized. So I see she already sent the invite. Okay, let's see if that works. Yes, hello.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine too. Okay, so just present yourself quickly. Tell us what you do, about your organization.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bojana. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm 19. I'm from North Macedonia. I am the coordinator of Sexy Hood. Sexy Hood is one of the sectors of HERA Youth, and I have been a part of HERA Youth for about 3 years. And one of the main things that Sexy Hood does is a radio show in which we talk about all of these topics. And in addition to this, we also do a lot of events, campaigns, and we'll talk more about one of them today.
So, how I just mentioned, you just did a project to make contraception more accessible. We will talk about the project itself a little bit later on, but we want to discuss more the cause at the moment. So what does it mean that contraception is accessible, and where are the problems in your context in North Macedonia, for example?
Yes, so like you said at the beginning, contraception enables family planning, and it gives us control over our own bodies. It can give us the ability to make an informed decision about our sexuality. But apart from all of these health benefits, it also affects gender equality. It affects equality between relationship or partnerships, and it's really important to have affordable and acceptable contraception, especially to the youth. And like you said, the question was why is it necessary in our context? In Macedonia, there are only 4 types of contraception available. That's an UD, I think that's how it's pronounced, birth control pills, and emergency contraception, and the male condom. Unfortunately, it's a big taboo topic, and that kind of affects the freedom of choice when it comes to sexuality and reproduction. And that's why it's so important to be active on these topics, because when we talk loudly and openly about contraception, we can break down these taboos.
What exactly are like the barriers? What are the barriers that make it that it's not accessible?
Yes, so like I said, taboo is a big part of it, because with the taboo comes a lot of discrimination, and that makes people not have lack of information. So when it's such a taboo topic, young people especially will get their information mostly from the internet or from like internet forums. And unfortunately, on the internet, anybody can write anything, and that leads to a lot of STIs and a lot of unplanned pregnancies, especially teenage pregnancies. And this goes along with the education of this topic. Teenagers and young people in general aren't going to stop having sex, and they won't stop being interested about these topics. But by pushing away this problem, nothing really changes. We don't really achieve anything, and the only thing that this results in is having unhappy teenagers and unhappy young people.
And I think often like people also forget that it will also affect society in whole if they don't give the freedom to choose for these young people, for example, and don't give them the skills to choose for themselves. Because if young people mostly are not able then to look for children, or that if they have STIs, it affects society, and a society who has to take up that burden then to look for them. So I think it's also for like an individualistic reason, it's okay to give other people the choice over what they want to do, and it also benefits them. You talked about the taboo. How does that show? Like, is it just very stigmatized? Can young people not openly buy contraception, or is it that they don't even learn about it? What is it exactly?
Well, first of all, like I said, it comes kind of hand in hand with the education. Young people in Macedonia don't really get education on these topics. The only things that are mentioned are in like biology, and you just list the contraceptions, and that's it. It's very rare. Not even young people. Most people in Macedonia don't know much about contraception other than there's a condom and like birth control pills, and even then those 2 things are filled with so many myths, and most people, like not just young people, most people don't even know how to properly put on a condom. And I get from one side of view that it's hard for some people, and it's kind of they're scared of the topic. But like I said before, if we just push a problem away, nothing really solves.
And who hinders the progress? Is it like the population in total that just do not want progress? Is it the government? What hinders the accessibility?
I feel like it's both sides. Firstly, the population, like I said, they don't have the proper information, and because they don't have the proper information, they don't really talk about it. And when the young people talk about it, they aren't usually heard, because it's not brought to awareness, the problem itself. And this affects how the government acts. They wouldn't really put all of their like strengths on this topic, because it's not really talked about. And when it comes to the decision makers making these decisions, it's also really contributed by the economy. But I feel like that's one of the reasons why we should really advocate on this topic. It's because these topics shouldn't be covered by the supply and demand of the country, because affect our sexual health and our rights, our reproductive rights. And of course, that plays a role. But in order to achieve this topic, it should affect more the healthcare system. Also, the formal education system. People should really have the access to information so they can make that change.
I think that's also always a myth that they say like sexuality education will sexualize more the youth. So I just want to say for the viewers at the moment that that's very statistically not proven. Like it's proven that if you have a comprehensive sexuality education, that people have later sex with less people and safer sex just because they have the knowledge to actually take decision. Like they know, they take conscious decision, they know the risks, they know why they should take a conscious decision. So that's just a myth. Sexuality education does not further sexualize the youth. It even makes them less sexualized because they will have less sex. Are there also other marginalized groups? Because now we talked a little bit for young people. So for young people, it's mostly that they can't handle the taboo, they don't learn about it. You mentioned the economy. I suppose it's also youth mostly does not have the money sometimes to actually get the contraception. Are there any other groups? Because, for example, we talked this month a lot about Black History Month, and then we said that, for example, BIPOC, by POC, they have even more mistrust towards contraception because it was always instrumentalized for colonialism reason or like racist reason, and that is another barrier, for example, that they face to have more accessibility to contraception. In your case, are there any other groups apart from youth that faces more barriers?
Yes, like you said, the biracial people and people of color do face a lot of discrimination when it comes to contraception. Other people, first of all, generally young people are a little bit more marginalized because they don't usually young people here don't have a steady income. They don't have therefore they don't have even a large enough income to buy contraception. And with these young people who come from Roma people or LGBT people or people who live with HIV, people who are of more smaller ethnic communities, or like people with disabilities, they also are very marginalized when it comes to contraception and having the rights, any reproductive rights in that matter. For these groups, I think that access is like further stigmatized, and this further proves that comprehensive sexual education should be in formal education, and especially for people who live, so Macedonia, if you live in like the capital city, yes, you might have like more access because there are more pharmacies and more stuff like that. But if you live anywhere else in Macedonia, you don't really have access to anything because you have to travel to get to a pharmacy. And especially if you live in a small village where everybody knows everybody, you are even more stigmatized because it's considered an embarrassment to use contraception as a young person.
Yeah, that's an important point you say, like the more rural area, like infrastructure must be there in order for it also to be accessible. I think, like for example, an example from Switzerland is that for emergency contraception, you kind of have to go through a talk, and there's like a mandatory talk that you have to go through to get the emergency contraception, and you are like have to go to a different room, and it's like this whole process that also younger girls in Switzerland often say that they feel ashamed from that, and it happens that they do not like to go get emergency contraception because they have to go through this whole process. So that is, for example, a barrier that we face in Switzerland. I think, and now I just want to give the opportunity to our viewers. I suppose barriers are completely different depending on where you live, what the situation is there like, legislatives, and so on. So we wanted to ask if anybody wants to join our live stream. Of course, you don't have to, but if you want to share any opinion, if you have any question, feel free to send us an invite and we will take you on. Okay, nobody has an opinion? That's okay too. Okay, that's all right. Then we go on to the project part. So you guys just did different projects in 2019 and then again now in 2020. Can you tell us a little bit about the projects you did and what exactly you wanted to achieve with those?
Yes. So last year in 2020, we did two campaigns, two projects. One was an online campaign which lasted 5 days, in which every day we shared a different design, which consisted of different types of contraception. And at the end, the last post was what contraception is available in Macedonia. The goal of this project was to educate everybody about other types of contraception and modern contraception. And then we didn't have it decided by the beginning of the year. It kind of naturally came after the online campaign. It was an exhibition. It was held on the 16th of December. It was called A Golden Orgasm. And the exhibition was consisting of an art piece done by an artist in Macedonia, and also a photo booth. There was music. It was really fun, and we also had the previous designs printed out as stickers, so those were used more of like the educational side of the exhibition. And yeah, and like you mentioned, in 2019 we had like a more huge project. It consisted of a lot of activities. Some of them were a photo booth and a panel discussion, writing a policy paper. I feel like that was the biggest thing we've ever done. It was really hard, but it was definitely worth it. We also had a few public events, and yes, that was, I feel like that's as short as I can explain.
So a lot of our followers, they are activists themselves and are part of like national organizations doing those projects as well. And so we want to give them a little bit help. How did you guys manage? What are like important tips and tricks that you will say to like organize such a whole project? Okay, wait, no, we're gonna ask first respond a question that we just got. So Julia asks, what was the policy paper about?
The policy paper was about accessible and available contraception in Macedonia. You can find it at our page. I'll write it down in the comments later. And it consisted of, first of all, informing people about contraception in general, about the contraception situation in Macedonia, and then also what we ask of the government to do about this situation.
So I know I know her, she's a lawyer, and I know that she probably wants to ask like what in like legislative wise, what is like the changes there that you asked?
Unfortunately, not much has changed since writing the policy paper. A few small changes have been made. I think one contraception got its price reduced, but that was it. For example, at the panel discussion, which was close to the policy paper, we invited, I think, 4 people from different ministries in Macedonia, and only one of them showed up. So that really shows about how the government hears young people in Macedonia.
Another question we just got is, how were the reactions to the paper? I suppose a little bit from the population or like the people that came. What were the reactions?
So the public reaction was actually really good and really supportive. A lot of people shared the paper. A lot of people read it, which was really surprising because it's super long. But people were really interested, and like I said, I think from the government. The question was from the government. Unfortunately, we didn't get much reaction. One of the when it was shared, it was always the ministries were tagged, but The reaction, I'm not sure about, like, was there any proof or like legal reaction, but from what I know is that the only changes that were, a lot of changes were promised, but the only changes that were made was a change in some of the prices, and I feel like there was another change in the accessibility in one part of Macedonia, but I'm not sure about more.
Okay, so if there's not any more questions, we go back to another question. So, okay, so if you want to implement such a project, and the viewers, for example, they will want to do something as well, because I suppose most of them are youth, and as youth, you sometimes feel it's hard to do something, you don't really got a voice or a power, but you guys are also a youth organization, and you made it do it. You made it. So what are like the most important or like tips you can give to start such a project or campaign?
Yes, so for both projects, even last year, like you said, usually when you think of young people doing something so big, you don't really think they can achieve it. I feel like why we achieved it was because in like regular project making, you have somebody who's a boss and you have somebody who tells you how to do something. I feel like why we achieved and why even other projects are so successful is because we don't really have somebody above us. We choose the team leader and we divide the work between us equally. And I feel like that's a really big part, is that we have equality between us, but also we are a great team of volunteers. Some of them are watching, so of course it wouldn't be possible without them. And I feel like the biggest thing that helps us do these successful things is that the cause binds us all together. We are all interested in the same cause and it affects all of us. And I feel like that's the groundwork, that we all agree on the same thing and we all have the same goal in mind, and that helps us achieve it better.
So you said that in the second part, you took more an artsy approach to it with the exhibition that you guys did. Why did you choose to do it with art, and was there any difference to like the other project where it was more legislative and more like let's say older people activism? Did you have a different like audience came, or what is the benefits of using art?
Yes, so for the last project this December, we chose art because we wanted to touch more young people, and we achieved our goal. I mean, more young.
Okay, did you just? Okay. No worries.
Yes. It touched more young people and it reached more young people. I feel like that was our biggest goal, because like I talked before, young people have so much power to change everything, I think. And we kind of decided to take a more artsy perspective, because from last year nothing much changed, and this year we tried to raise more awareness. And I feel like the best way to do that was through art, because it reached, the main people it reached was young people, but it also reached people of all ages. And because they were primarily interested in the art, but when they came to the exhibition, they kind of got educated on all other topics. So I feel like that it was a really good decision to do it through art. It's something we've never done before, and we really saw the benefits from it.
I suppose art also touches or like reaches somebody in a different way, more through like emotions and not just always like cold facts. Evidently, facts are always important when you preach about something, but like the message, how you get to somebody.
Yes,
I think art.
When you're like a young person, policy paper is great, but not every young person will read like 20 pages from it. They would be more interested in coming to something interesting that would like more affect them.
Yeah, I love that approach. Also in our ISPUS MA, we always like try to use art. I also think for youth that's such a good way to like teach them, to reach them, and I suppose that's also a way that they like to learn about. So now we are going to open it up one more time to the viewers. If you have any questions about the projects or any other questions about accessible contraception that popped up in your head, you can comment or you can ask to join the video. So we're going to give you some time for that. So if there's no more questions, we already come to the outro. So how we already said, we try to do this every month where we talk about a different subject. So if you guys have any subject you would love us to talk about, just slide in our DMs. If you have an activist, a project you want us to see, you can also always tell us. If you got inspired by the great project that HERA Youth did, but you'd love to like also get invested into sexual rights, but you don't know where, like YSAFE kind of has member organizations all around Europe and Central Asia. So if you want to get active, slide also in your DMs. We can tell us where you find local organization where you can get active. We just got questions anyway. Are you dealing with a lot of resistance while trying to change the youth in Macedonia?
Are you trying to change? I didn't hear the rest.
Are you dealing with a lot of resistance from the youth when you try to change them? Or is the youth cooperative? Are they open to that contraception talk?
Actually, no. A lot of young people are very interested in these topics. So we also do like comprehensive sexual education. And when we do these workshops, in my experience, I've never met one young person who's been resistant. Every young person is interested to learn more about the topics. I feel like from whom we receive resistance is from the older generation. Like I said before, we don't really like, they aren't really educated, so it's considered a taboo topic, and it's kind of uncomfortable for them. But even older generations who have who know exactly what comprehensive sexual education is about, they don't really have any like hate comments or any resistance towards it. It's only people who aren't like totally informed about the subject and they just hear the word sexuality and they kind of like get scared about it.
Yeah, I think that's also a point people always forget. Like the youth wants to hear about it. Like if the youth has any question about sexuality, that's a problem, and there's no formal sexual education or like places where they can learn about it, then they would just go to the internet, how you already said before, and then have facts that you cannot be sure it's really fact. So it just shows the youth wants to learn about it. So why should we hinder and make it even more barriers and just not give them the access to that information? We got one more question. You guys do not want this to end. How do you keep the motivation up? Because sometimes processes like this take long time to make change. That is a very good question.
I feel like motivation, first of all, comes from the people you surround yourself with. Like I talked before, I think we are a really great team and we are really binded by all of us having the same mindset and having the same goals. And I feel like that, for me personally, that motivates me the most, because when you surround yourself with people who think differently than you, you don't really, you kind of think that there's something wrong with you. And if you surround yourself with people who share the same mindset with you, you understand that it's not only you. And I feel like that motivates me the most. So I would say finding the right people.
Yeah, I think also in our organizations, just because we have so amazing people, like it's not even you go to do activism, it's you also just go to be with your friends and with cool people like that you'd like to spend time with. So I also think it's important when you have a group that does that you do not only focus on the work, but you also focus on just being with each other and enjoying your time, and next to it you do amazing thing for the world. And also what I think motivates me is to just see like mini steps. Like you have to be proud, even if the project you did sadly did not get the outcome you maybe wished for, but already the fact that you made it work, that you made something, that you took the decision to do it and you did it, you have to already be proud on those steps, and like be proud if a single person comes and tells you, oh, you made me my mind change, or I like that or like that. Like there's many steps that you can be proud of, even if you do not change the whole world and in one day, because that is just impossible. So for me to keep motivated, it's just seeing the little steps and enjoying them.
Yes, but also like, I'm sorry, we'll answer. Also, I feel like, yeah, nothing has changed like permanently, and no like big change has changed. Not like we changed everything overnight, but at least now people are aware of the problem and they talk about it more. I can definitely see the change in the last year, for example. Not everybody has the same opinion, but now everybody has an opinion because they're informed that there's something. And before, nobody even knew about these topics, and maybe in a few years those opinions will change and will improve, and maybe in a few more years we'll have a complete change. So nothing happens overnight, and that can't be the reason for our motivation.
That's a very important point, like just keeping the discussion going. So, and it's also not like, it shouldn't be I impose my opinion on you. It is also them who have to come on their own to that decision. And it's just keeping that discussion going. People might realize the benefit for themselves it has, or for the people around them. So I think just always like doing stuff that keeps it going already helps a lot. Okay. Perhaps maybe now that's the last question. If you still, of course, we're always open. If you still have a question, you can ask that. If you want to join the chat, you can join the chat. But otherwise, we really thank Bojana and HERA Youth for the project you did, and for like keeping motivated and keeping discussion going, and for making the change you make. Thank you so much too, and thank you so much for joining the chat and coming to talk to us at this day. And again, so for everybody else, if you have any wish you want us to talk about, just slide in our DMs. If you want to be connected with anybody, slide in our DMs. We try to do the best we can do. And thank you so much for coming to listening to us and being present.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me.
Okay, bye guys. Okay, how do you want that?